Chapter 1807 Bugs. ONX's alien team had just arrived in Fremons recently. When they heard about Zhang Yi's gains, their eyes were red with jealousy. So when they first arrived in Fremons, they did not apply for action from Fremons through the normal process, but found the city of Alto through their own means. They wanted to come here to pick up leaks and see if they could find something that Zhang Yi and Emperor Shirtian's team had not found. But they didn't expect that they would pick up a big one just after arriving here. In the team, a short-haired female alien in a silver combat uniform said, "Captain, what should we do?" Captain Parlor said calmly, "Don't worry. According to the intelligence, these guys are very powerful. So we have to make a careful plan. No matter how strong they are, as long as they are aliens, they must have weaknesses. We have the advantage in numbers. Let Capone and Clodal attack from the front first to test their abilities. Winster and Patch will be responsible for long-range support. As for the rest of us, after they reveal their flaws, we will immediately launch attacks from 6 directions and catch them by surprise." Parlor formulated tactics in an orderly manner. He was surrounded by elite aliens, including 3 Ypsilon-level aliens. In his opinion, such a powerful alien team is also the top level in Europe. Therefore, what the Huashu alien team can do, they can certainly do. At the worst, they can also control the casualties within an acceptable range. Parlor's plan is perfect. The subordinates around him nodded as they listened. In the past, under the leadership of their captain, they could be said to be invincible. So this time, there would be no surprises. But at this moment, the expression on the face of the short-haired female alien Pesci suddenly became dull, and her already snow-white skin became even paler. Seeing her like this, Parlor frowned. "Pesci, what's wrong? Have you remembered the battle plan I told you?" Pesci opened her mouth. She was too surprised to speak, but pointed behind Parlor. Everyone subconsciously looked in the direction of her finger. On the ruins where they hid their bodies, a dark figure stood there quietly, silently, as if it had appeared for a long time. Demon Godson. He looked down at everyone, without any emotion in his eyes, and could not feel any murderous intent. But the body that was twice the size of an ordinary human, emitting a dark metallic glow, still naturally brought people a sense of fear. "We've been discovered." Parlor calmed down in less than a second. They had been through hundreds of battles. What scenes had they not seen? He instantly pulled out an adamantium sword from his waist, and the blade rubbed against the scabbard, making a crackling sound that made people's blood boil. In an instant, the raging flames centered on him and burned fiercely. The whole sky was dyed red. The distance between him and Xian was less than 30 meters, but for an alien of his level, this distance was equivalent to non-existence. He just took a step and flew into the air in front of Xian. The long sword in his hand swung out, and the endless red flames hit the demon in front of him like a giant dragon. Endless residual flames. Parlor, alien codename, Vulcancerter, Black Chariot level Ypsilon. The power that burst out in an instant evaporated the ice and snow on the entire land. Although his teammates were used to fighting side by side with Parlor, they also felt dry mouth and tongue at this time, and the water in their bodies was almost evaporated. In just a moment, the sword burning with blazing flames swept towards the neck of demon god Xian. The sharp blade, the flames that could burn everything, seemed to be able to take off the head of demon god Xian in an instant. When the blade was less than 1 centimeter away from Xian's neck, a black metal palm appeared in front of the blade and gently clamped it. Then the blade could no longer move forward even a little bit. Parlor was stunned, and all the aliens in ONX showed extremely horrified expressions on their faces. They had seen people who could block Parlor's attack, but there had never been a person who could catch Parlor's flaming sword with his palm. Flame is one of the most destructive abilities. There was a trace of astonishment in Parlor's eyes, but then he roared, and his body and the sword in his hand burned with even more turbulent flames. The red flames gushed out and soared into the sky. The color gradually changed from red and finally turned into the purest white flame. His whole body was burning, and the ground beneath his feet was shattered by the excessively hot temperature. Even his subordinates changed their expressions and hurried to leave the area. If our combat uniforms were not specially made and resistant to high temperatures, I'm afraid they would not be able to withstand the captain's ability, Pashi said angrily. Other people's combat uniforms need to be resistant to ultra-low temperatures. Only theirs is special. Because of Parlor's ability, he often accidentally injures teammates during battles. Severe dehydration can turn people into dried corpses. Parlor burst out his most powerful strength, his eyes fixed on the demon in front of him. The opponent's body is made of a special metal, flickering a dark and cold light in the firelight. On this planet, any known metal cannot withstand such a terrifying high temperature. However, Xion's body showed no signs of melting under the flames. Xion's eyes finally showed a trace of uneasiness. He subconsciously wanted to draw his sword and then turn around to fight again. But the sword seemed to be frozen in this space, and no matter how hard he tried, he couldn't pull it out.
Xion
looked at him quietly, and his emotionless eyes gradually lit up red. A strong and dangerous breath, with the taste of death, completely enveloped Parlor. He almost instinctively let go of the sword, and then jumped back and retreated. 2 red lasers had shot out of Xion's eyes and shot at his body. No matter how fast Parlor was, he couldn't be faster than this close attack. When he chose to cut close to him, the distance between the two was no longer meaningful. In this kind of mutual explosion style, one person will definitely be killed quickly. But he tried his best to attack, but he didn't hurt the demon Xion at all. He realized a terrifying problem. The power of the demon god was not as weak as he imagined. What the chaos of Huashu country could do, he might not be able to do. There was no time for him to think. Xion's laser had already arrived in front of him. He roared, and this behavior could provide great courage for creatures like humans and better exert the power of the body. The flames condensed in front of him, covering him like a bathrobe. Swish! The next moment, the red laser penetrated his defense. Parlor lowered his head in astonishment. He felt the power of life being drawn out of his body. There was nothing in his chest, only a huge hole. In Xion's eyes, the vital signs and energy reactions of the life forms in front of him were rapidly weakening. As an artificial man, he was the most elite fighter in the mechanical civilization. Through fighting with the enemy, he would slowly collect all the information of all enemies. And he was most adept at dealing with enemies like this who fought by bursting high energy. Because he only needed to judge how much output power to adjust according to its energy reaction, he could accurately break the opponent's defense without causing waste. He was a man-made man, not an alien, so his fighting was more about calculation. Plain and simple. Xion threw away the sword in his hand. He looked down on this crude weapon of backward civilization. Facing Parlor, he took out a huge sword from his back, a scimitar that was almost as long as his body and inlaid with more than a dozen red energy crystals. Swish! His body turned into a black afterimage and swept past, and with one knife, he completely chopped off Parlor's head. A black chariot-level alien was killed so easily. The aliens of ONX watched their captain being beheaded. From beginning to end, they didn't even have a chance to fight. The enemy's strength was beyond their imagination. This was an opponent they had never encountered since the end of the world. Despair, complete despair, enveloped their hearts. They didn't even have the idea of resisting. Xion killed Parlor and glanced at them casually. But just when everyone thought they were going to die, Xion turned around and left here. It is judged that it cannot pose any threat, so there is no need to eliminate it. Xion did not have a hobby of killing. For the demons, everything they did was just like a cleaner's job, clearing the way for the goal of the entire civilization. Killing humans? They are just some weak insects. There is nothing to be proud of killing them, and there is no pleasure in killing. Who would be complacent because of stepping on ants to death? Even if you want to step on them to death, you will only step on the ones that look slightly bigger. After Xion went back, he and Wu continued to discuss the excavation value of this piece of land. They decided to send an engineering team to dig it. Even if there was only a slight chance, they were unwilling to let it go. It took a long time for the aliens in ONX to realize that the other party had no intention of killing them. They were not even qualified to be killed, which made them feel humiliated and extremely fortunate. Immediately, they fled back directly, without even going to Samran City. They just briefly told the people of Fremons about the situation and hurried back to ONX. I think from now on, they will no longer look down on the overlords of other countries in the world because of the small achievements they have made around ONX. When the news of the defeat of the ONX alien army came, Zhang Yi also received the news at the first time. He was not surprised at all. People who have not fought with the demons have no idea how strong they are. Zhang Yi was able to defeat him relatively easily because Sunluo Wanxiang was too buggy. No matter how strong the fighting skills of the artificial demons are, they are completely unable to display them in the face of a defense layer that is almost impenetrable on the physical level. But others are not so lucky. More and more demons are beginning to appear, and the real war has just begun. So, Big Boss, what are you going to do next? Ling's voice came from not far away, holding an electronic device in her hand, with an indifferent look on her face. Zhang Yi looked at her and she smiled. I still have a lot of valuable information. You didn't use the information last time, so I can give it to you at half the price this time. Zhang Yi stared at her seriously and asked word by word, can you confirm the whereabouts of the 10 demon gods? That's very difficult. Ling wrinkled her nose, but then she spread her hands and said, but if the price you offer is right, I can try it. Zhang Yi's eyelids drooped slightly, and Ling gave him a very mysterious feeling. At present, it seems that she may have contacted people in the core area of Fremons' high level. After all, the information she said is impossible for ordinary people to contact. Okay, as long as your information is accurate, you can name the price. Zhang Yi said very generously. Intelligence is life on the battlefield, and Zhang Yi will never be stingy with the price of obtaining intelligence. Ling smiled happily. That's great. Then this time, the price I want is 10 times the previous price. Zhang Yi didn't waste any words and directly took out the metamatter storage tank from the alien space and gave it to her. Ling collected them in a large backpack and then sent another intelligence map to Zhang Yi. Just like last time, different colors were used to mark the map of Fremons. The places marked above are the areas where mechanical life forms have been active recently. The darker the color, the more frequent the mechanical life forms in the area. As for the areas marked in red, there is a high probability that demons are active. Ling smiled and blinked at Zhang Yi. Zhang Yi smiled and said, thank you. Ling shrugged her shoulders. You're welcome. I'm just doing things for money. As she said that, she lowered her head and continued to fiddle with her electronic devices. Zhang Yi felt that Ling was becoming more and more mysterious. She had been moving around Zhang Yi's residence. Zhang Yi deliberately sent her away when discussing important matters, fearing that she would leak information. From beginning to end, she had never been seen leaving, but she was able to grasp Fremon's first-hand intelligence. This made people wonder, how did she do all this? More and more countries joined in this resource division. Fremons didn't need to do anything to get 30% of the benefits, and they were certainly happy with it. However, this situation did not last. From the moment Zhang Yi killed the demon god Goe, the controllers of the mechanical civilization finally began to look up and take a look at these weak and annoying creatures on the surface. The flames of war ignited on every piece of land in Fremons. And those combat-type mechanical life forms that originally didn't bother to care about humans finally began to emerge from under the earth and began to eliminate humans.